Strategy in finding limits. There is a fundamental mistake that almost every calculus student makes. They treat limit evaluation as a single, uniform method. They see a limit, they immediately reach for the first technique they remember, and when it fails, they are lost. That approach is completely wrong. Evaluating a limit is a diagnostic process. Before you write a single algebraic step, you must read the structure of the expression in front of you and make a strategic decision. That decision determines everything, and it must be systematic. Here is the framework. Every time you encounter a limit, run through exactly this sequence. Step 1. Try direct substitution. Step 2. If that fails, identify the obstruction. Step 3. Choose the precise algebraic technique that dismantles it. Step 4. If no algebraic method applies, examine the limit's behavior at the boundary. Does it blow up to infinity, or does it oscillate and cease to exist entirely? Every example in this lecture will force you to apply that exact sequence. There are no shortcuts and there are no exceptions. Direct substitution is always your first move. Always. The reason is simple. If a function is continuous at the point in question, the limit equals the function value. You substitute, you are done. Consider the limit as x approaches 3 of the quantity x cubed minus 5x plus 2. Direct substitution gives us 27 minus 15 plus 2, which is 14. That is the limit. No further analysis is needed. The critical question is this: when does direct substitution succeed? It succeeds when the function is a polynomial, a rational function at a point where the denominator is non-zero, a trigonometric or exponential function at a point within its domain, or any composition of continuous functions. When it fails, the failure takes a recognizable form: 0 divided by 0, infinity minus infinity, infinity over infinity. These are the indeterminate forms, and they are the entry point to everything else in this strategy. When direct substitution yields 0 over 0, do not panic. This result is not a dead end, it is information. It tells you there is likely a common factor between the numerator and denominator that is responsible for the 0 on both sides. That common factor must be found and cancelled. Consider the limit as x approaches negative 3 of the fraction x squared plus x minus 6 over x plus 3. Substituting gives 0 over 0. The numerator factors as x plus 3 times x minus 2. The denominator is already x plus 3. The common factor cancels immediately, leaving x minus 2. Substituting negative 3 gives negative 5. That is the limit. Now consider a more subtle version. The limit as x approaches 2 of the fraction x cubed minus 8 over x squared minus 4. Again, substitution yields 0 over 0. The numerator is a difference of cubes, x minus 2 times x squared plus 2x plus 4. The denominator is a difference of squares, x minus 2 times x plus 2. The common factor x minus 2 cancels. What remains is x squared plus 2x plus 4 over x plus 2. Substituting 2, the numerator is 4 plus 4 plus 4, which is 12. The denominator is 4. The limit is 3. The algebraic structure, difference of squares, difference of cubes, sum of cubes, is not decoration. It is the mechanism for cancellation. Recognizing these patterns instantly is not optional at this level. It is required. Factoring handles polynomials. But what happens when the indeterminate form involves a radical expression? Factoring is useless there. Instead, you deploy the conjugate method. The idea is precise. If you have a difference or sum involving a square root in either the numerator or denominator, multiply both the numerator and denominator by the conjugate. The conjugate of a minus b root is a plus b root. This destroys the radical via the difference of squares identity, creating a polynomial factor that can be cancelled. Consider the limit as x approaches 7 of the fraction square root of x plus 2 minus 3 over x minus 7. Substitution gives 0 over 0, a radical indeterminate form. Multiply numerator and denominator by the conjugate, square root of x plus 2 plus 3. The numerator becomes x plus 2 minus 9, which is x minus 7. The denominator is x minus 7 times square root of x plus 2 plus 3. The x minus 7 cancels. Substitute 7. The denominator becomes 3 plus 3, which is 6. The limit is 1 over 6. Notice that the conjugate did not simplify the expression arbitrarily. It created the cancelable factor x minus 7 in the numerator by design. This is the algebraic strategy, not a trick. Now we move to a different category of behavior. What happens when substitution does not produce 0 over 0, but instead produces a non-zero number over 0? This is not an indeterminate form. This is an indication of an infinite limit. The analysis here is purely about sign. Consider the limit as x approaches 2 from the right of the fraction 5 over x minus 2. As x approaches 2 from the right, x minus 2 is a small positive number. 5 divided by a small positive number is a large positive number. As the denominator approaches 0, the fraction explodes toward positive infinity. The limit is positive infinity. Now evaluate the same expression as x approaches 2 from the left. Now x minus 2 is a small negative number. 5 over a small negative number gives a large negative number. The left-hand limit is negative infinity. Since the left and right limits disagree, one is positive infinity, the other is negative infinity. The two-sided limit does not exist. The line x equals 2 is a vertical asymptote. When you detect a non-zero constant over zero pattern after substitution, your task is sign analysis. Determine the sign of the numerator and the sign of the denominator as you approach from each side. The sign of the quotient tells you the direction of the blow-up. Two classes of limits fail to exist, and you must be able to identify both immediately. The first class, infinite blow-up with sign mismatch. We just saw this. When the left-hand and right-hand limits both go to infinity, but in opposite directions, one positive, one negative, the two-sided limit does not exist. The second class, oscillatory nonconvergence. Consider the limit as x approaches 0 of cosine of the fraction pi over x. As x approaches 0, the argument pi over x increases without bound. The cosine of an unbounded argument does not converge. It oscillates between 1 and negative 1 forever. There is no single number that the function approaches. The limit does not exist. These two failure modes have very different signatures. Blow-up is visible through sign analysis of a rational expression near a zero denominator. Oscillation appears with trigonometric or periodic functions composed with expressions that grow without bound near the target point. Learn to recognize both patterns before performing any computation. Let me now state the complete decision sequence precisely. When you see a limit, substitute first. If the result is a real number, you are done. If the result is 0 over 0, identify the algebraic structure. Factor and cancel if polynomials, multiply by the conjugate if radicals are present. If the result is a non-zero constant over 0, perform sign analysis from each side to determine if the limit is positive infinity, negative infinity, or non-existent due to sign conflict. If the expression involves trigonometric or periodic functions and the argument grows without bound, analyze for oscillation. Every limit problem sits in exactly one of these categories. The strategy is not about memorizing techniques in isolation. It is about reading the structure of the limit, making the correct diagnosis, and selecting the precise method that resolves it. Now apply that strategy to one final demanding problem. Consider the limit as x approaches one of the fraction x to the fourth minus 1 over the square root of x minus 1. Pause the video right now. Take 5 to 10 seconds, read the structure, identify the obstruction, and decide which method applies before you continue. Let's work through it. Direct substitution, 1 minus 1 over 1 minus 1 giving 0 over 0. This confirms the indeterminate form. Now examine the structure. The numerator involves a fourth power, a polynomial. The denominator involves a square root. This mixed structure suggests the conjugate method, but let us look more carefully. We can rationalize the denominator by multiplying numerator and denominator by the conjugate of the denominator, square root of x plus 1. The denominator becomes x minus 1. The numerator is x to the fourth minus 1 times the quantity square root of x plus 1. Now factor x to the fourth minus 1. This is a difference of squares, x squared minus 1 times x squared plus 1. And x squared minus 1 factors further as x minus 1 times x plus 1. So the numerator contains x minus 1 as a factor. Cancel x minus 1 from numerator and denominator. What remains is x squared plus 1 times x plus 1 times the quantity square root of x plus 1. Substitute x equals 1, x squared plus 1 is 2. X plus 1 is 2. Square root of x plus 1 is 2. The product is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. The limit is 8. This problem required two distinct algebraic moves in sequence: rationalization to produce a cancelable factor, and difference of squares factoring to execute the cancellation.